No, yep.
Okay. Good evening. Today is October 28th, 2024. It is about 6:12 p.m., and this is a meeting of the Streets and Sidewalks Committee. To my right is Councilwoman Susan Westfall, and Mr. Schilling, the third member of this party, will not be with us this evening, and I'm Bob Phillips, the chair. We have two items on our agenda, and the first one is an authorization to amend a contract with Eagle Bridge for the Broadford Bridge, which is State Route 41 East and its rehab project. And Mr. Titterington, you have the staff report.
I do, but I would like to say that in the audience is Assistant Engineer Christy Butera, who will gracefully and gratefully answer any detailed questions as to why we have to ask for more money once again. But earlier this year, Council did authorize bidding for the rehab work on Broadford Bridge, which is largely some concrete work and the curb. We had a company come in and do an analysis. They examined the areas, but once Eagle Bridge did come in and start doing the work, particularly on the north side of the bridge, there has been more extensive repairs that have been needed, and so we are estimating that we need an increase of $10,000 in the authorization of $260 that Council originally approved in Resolution 14. The work is ongoing. If you've been out that way, we have been restricting traffic. We'd rather not do that for much longer, even though we do have some work to go. So in light of that, we are asking for emergency legislation.
In reading the report, it was rather odd to me that we had a company, and Ms. Butera, you may be able to answer this, we had a company do the inspection work and the bids were let off of their report?
Right, so a company came out and analyzed the bridge, made what they felt was a good approximation for the amount of concrete work. Like if you'll recall, right, you were seeing rebar exposed, there's a bunch of concrete chipped off.
Right.
And then honestly, it just came down to it when they were out. So part of the process when the contractor's out there, they're sounding the areas, right, like so hitting the concrete, and basically more of it is not intact, less of it is intact than our original design consultant believed to be true. And so as they're sounding the areas and more is falling off, right, it's a larger concrete repair that we have to do.
Well, I just thought that was a little odd to me that those activities would not have been done very extensively to identify all of the work that was potentially necessary, I guess.
I think what that would have entailed, though, we would have essentially had to tear more of it apart at the time, right? He was just doing some surface sounding. I'm trying to find a reasonable equate, like if you're sounding, I don't know, rotting floor area. I don't really have a good analogy to compare that to, but right, it's if you think of that area, if you can visualize that, it's over a foot thick, right, the area that you're traversing, and you're just kind of sounding and looking at the top, and it's unknowing what is underneath that.
Okay. Well, I'm just happy that the actual contractor has actually gone farther and identified potential weaknesses or whatever. I'm glad to have that done. I don't have any other questions at this time.
Is there any chance they'll come back again and say we need more?
No. We're, like you said, we're on the north side, right? We've already finished the one half. We've moved on to the other side. We're very confident that this is the correct number.
Okay.
I will not be back before you again for another request for money for this project.
It's recorded.
Is that all you had?
That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other council folks? Mr. Whidden, come on down. Or Twist, or whatever your name is.
Jeffrey Whidden, First Ward City Council. As I recall, when we passed this originally, it is the city's responsibility for the surface, basically anything visible, and the state's responsibility for the structure itself. Is my memory correct there?
I believe that's correct, yes.
So if we're finding more damage now, is this something we need to report to the state that they might take interest in, if there's any more structural conditions wrong with the bridge itself?
They wouldn't, they still consider this a maintenance item on that, they don't call it a sidewalk, but on that shoulder curb area. And it has nothing to do with the bridge deck itself.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions? Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Seeing none, what is your,
Move forward.
okay?
With emergency.
It is, yeah, with emergency, we'll unanimously with the committee that's present to move forward with emergency.
Yeah.
And our second item, moving right along, is the 2024 Sidewalk Replacement and Missing Gap Program Phase 16 and the Resolution of Necessity. And Ms. Butera, are you going to do that also, or
I can do it.
Mr.
So this is our annual sidewalk replacement program. This year we are doing gap filling. You have a map in your packets that show the sections where there are missing gaps. It involves 21 parcels. The resolution of necessity is the first step, and we will notify those property owners by letter and give them at least six weeks. We'll come up with a date that'll be in the 6 weeks or later, because we do have to have a specific date in there where they can pull the permits. It doesn't mean they have to do it immediately, just with the way the weather and the timing is, but they do have at least 6 months to do that work. If there are some issues, then we will work with the property owners. However, we do need to declare the resolution of necessity so we can start that process and put them on notice, and then identify how many of the 21 might want the city to bid and do the work on their behalf, and then get it assessed ultimately. We are not asking for emergency legislation.
Gotcha. Mr. Butera, what in our list of lists with similar properties throughout the city, how much of the missing portion of this, not the repair or replacement, but is there a guesstimate of how many that we have, or how much in the city we have that are the gap variety?
Are you asking how much overall, or
Correct.
how much?
No, overall.
It's been a long time since I've looked at that map. I don't have a good number to give you an approximation on.
Is there a substantial number, do you know?
There is, and
Yeah.
I could get that detail and follow back up with you prior to the next meeting.
Yeah, we
your
tried to
council
group
meeting.
this one
Right.
as much as we could. There are 2 or 3 sections where they are fairly long, but they are part of future street
Right.
projects,
Right.
and so those gaps can be filled much similar to the Stanfield project.
Right.
So there are 2 or 3 of those that are involved as well, so that'll eliminate a bunch of them at that time.
Gotcha. Okay. I don't have any other questions. Do you?
No, that's what I was gonna ask, how were these spots determined? And I guess based on the streetscape or jobs being done, so that answered my question.
Well, not the streetscapes, but
The sidewalk.
infrastructure
Sidewalk,
projects,
yeah.
yeah.
Sure. Okay. Any other council folks have questions on this item? Anyone else have any questions on this item? Okay. So what is your pleasure with this one?
Move forward as this one.
All right, it's unanimous with the committee that's present that we move forward as staff is requesting on this.
Okay.
Any other items to come before the Streets and Sidewalks?
No, sir.
Then we are adjourned. Thank you all for attending.